These are the stories topping the news. Prime Minister Harris promises that government will create alternatives for those considering a life of crime. The strike at the University of Guyana has ended and thousands have paid their respects to Boris Nemtsov at his funeral today. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Tuesday, 3rd March 2015. I'm Ebony Brandon. Now we take a look at the news developments in detail. Prime Minister and Minister responsible for national security, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, has promised criminals and persons who are considering joining gangs that his government will create opportunities for everyone. During a statement on ZIZ Radio on Monday, Prime Minister Harris said under the Team Unity-led administration, persons can have a fresh start on life.
St. Kitts and Nevis is yours. There are opportunities available here for you to steer on a different path. My government has promised that all will have a fair share of the nation's prosperity. We are committed to that. You have an opportunity for a fresh start to replace your frustrations and anger with peace, with love and hope. Real hope for a better tomorrow for you and your family under this new Team Unity government.
Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Mark Brantley, is leading a delegation to the first conference of the foreign ministers of Germany and the Caribbean community in Berlin. The two-day conference comes in advance of critically important summits in 2015, including the LL-SELAC EU Summit, the United Nations Summit on the Post-2015 Development Framework, and the COP21 in Paris. Minister Brantley said he considered it a priority to ensure representation by the Federation, given the leading role that Germany plays in the European Union and in the international arena on issues of mutual interest. High on the agenda for discussion are energy and energy efficiency, climate change and the environment, development policy and fostering closer commercial ties and investment flows between Europe and the Caribbean region. With just a few weeks remaining before the staging of the 5th annual Lime Miss Black Sand Bangalang pageant, the 6 beauties who will compete for this year's title have been revealed. ZIZ News understands that Marsha Phillip, Felicia Silcott, Shamika Prentice, Drusilla Arthurton, Bentina Seaton and Deshana Pershnif will grace the stage on March 29th in fierce and creatively designed swimsuits. The contestants were launched on Saturday during a ceremony at Nirvana restaurant in Boyd's. Desiree Herbert is the reigning Lime Miss Black Sand Bangalang. In regional developments, the St. Lucia Royal Police Force is touting the success of 0 homicides in the months of January and February 2015. However, despite this news, the impacts report continues to cast a pall on the law enforcement agency. Now, speculation is rife about the departure of Police Commissioner Vernon Francois, who is on vacation leave.
Emphatically denied reports that Commissioner Vernon Francois has been sent on vacation leave due to the pending release of the findings of the impacts report on the alleged extrajudicial killings by police officers between 2010 and 2011. In 2013, the U.S. government suspended aid to the police force, expressing dissatisfaction with the handling of the cases. Rumors abound that the top cop's departure on the eve of the pending release of the details of the report is no coincidence. However, Police Press Relations Officer Senior Constable Zachary Hippolyte has dismissed these reports, stating that the timing of the top cop's leave is not unusual.
As usual, every year the commissioner takes some time off, which is definitely what most police officers do. And he being the police officer, top cop, he has decided to take some leave, some much needed leave. After all, we just had independence, and as you know, as the year is coming, we'll be having lots more activities like jazz and carnival. So it's just normal for the commissioner to take leave around this time.
Despite the cloud of uncertainty hanging over the law enforcement agency, the force is in a somewhat upbeat mood after recording 0 homicides for the consecutive months of January and February of this year, a first in over 15 years. Constable Hippolyte says the organization is very grateful to the citizens of St. Lucia.
The organization would like to thank the public. We believe this is a victory for St. Lucia. This is a victory for the citizenry. And we as an organization, we shall continue in our community policing initiatives to foster this relationship with the public. And we believe that has a lot to do with the successes that we as a nation have been having so far.
The Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, is scheduled to address the nation on the findings of the impacts report on March 8, 2015. Rihanna Isidore, HTS News Force.
The strike at the University of Ghana formally ended yesterday, with the aggrieved parties hammering out an agreement with the institution's administration. We hear more in this report.
Classes at the University of Ghana will resume fully within the next 48 hours as part of the terms of resumption signed between the unions and the university's administration. Dr. Melissa Eiffel, president of the University of Ghana Senior Staff Association, said 2 agreements were signed by the university's Pro-Chancellor Bibi Shadiq and Vice-Chancellor Professor Jacob Opedei, along with herself and Bruce Haynes, president of the University of Ghana Workers' Union.
We signed 2 agreements this morning: the resumption of duties agreement, which paves the way for us to return to work, and an interim offer agreement to increase our salaries by 10% from January 1st, 2015. Within 48 hours, there will be full resumption of duties, but we're calling upon all staff to return to work tomorrow morning. We're calling for all staff lecturers to start teaching by tomorrow morning. For those who, need some time to get back to work, that 48 hours is to, protect them.
She also said the agreement will see workers being paid in full for February when they were on strike.
But we will ensure that the work of the university is completed. So for lecturers, we will ensure that all work is taught, and we will put in place a mechanism to ensure that the non-academic staff work back some of the time and complete the backlog of work that is there.
Negotiations, Dr. Eiffel said, will resume in 7 days and is expected to be completed by June 30th. If talks fail, then they will head to conciliation. Haynes said the agreement signed today also addressed the working conditions of lecturers and staff.
Are you going to teach the same way you were teaching before, helping a system that doesn't appreciate and did not appreciate what you did? Those things are critical to the return. Since they cannot basically be done immediately, as a matter of fact, they should have been done while we were outside. It didn't happen. That being so, there will be some time before all those things will be made available and in there. So there will still be some discomfort in terms of teaching and delivery, but the staff are prepared to do that.
Vice-Chancellor Jacob Opedei said the administration is satisfied with the agreement but is pleased that the staff is back at work. University of Ghana academic and administrative staff embarked on industrial action after the university failed to agree to a 60% salary increase, working conditions and incentives. Reporting for Capital News, I am Wharton.
Internationally, thousands of people, many carrying red carnations, queued on Tuesday morning to pay their respects to Boris Nemtsov, the Kremlin critic who was murdered last week.
Hundreds of people have queued to pay their respects to Boris Nemtsov, the Kremlin critic who was murdered last week. He was shot in the back 4 times on Friday, within sight of the Kremlin walls. Nemtsov was one of several opposition figures who had a long history in the Russian government. He rose through the political ranks in the 90s, eventually becoming deputy prime minister during the reign of Boris Yeltsin. Hundreds of people queued for hours to file past the open coffin. Among the mourners, the US ambassador to Russia, John F. Tefft, and former British Prime Minister John Major, and standing at the coffin of her son, Nemtsov's 87-year-old mother. Several prominent politicians will not be in attendance, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, who will send his representative from Parliament.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainian model who was with Boris Nemtsov when he was shot has returned to Kiev.
The Ukrainian model who was with Russian opposition leader Boris Nemtsov when he was shot is back in Kiev. Anna Duritska flew into the Ukrainian capital on Monday night and was swiftly whisked away in a car with blacked-out windows. Her lawyer said she had been questioned extensively by authorities.
Anna
Duritska has fully cooperated with Russian investigators. I can state that as her lawyer, he says. 3 days were spent cooperating with Russia's investigative committee. She has given a full and exhaustive account of her last hours with Boris. In an interview with a Russian television channel, the Ukrainian model said, "I only saw a light-coloured car, but I did not see the model or the number plate of the car that was driving away." Dozens of security cameras monitor the streets around the Kremlin where the shooting happened, but none captured the moment Nemtsov was gunned down. A local television station broadcast low-resolution footage from one of its web cameras that it said showed the couple shortly before Nemtsov was killed.
In other news, the homeless man who was shot dead in Los Angeles was caught on camera, and in information now coming to hand, the victim, known only by his street name Africa, had a history of mental illness.
This is the moment a homeless man in Los Angeles was shot dead in a confrontation with police officers. Authorities say they were responding to reports of a robbery in the Skid Row area of the city when they approached the man, known only by the street name Africa. He's said to have had a history of violent and erratic behaviour.
The officers involved in this incident are assigned to our Safer Cities initiative in Central area and are specially trained on dealing with homeless people and mental illness issues. Several of the officers had participated and completed our most extensive mental illness training.
Skid Row, a square-mile area in downtown LA, is inhabited by over 3,000 homeless people, a third of whom suffer from mental illness, authorities report.
There was enough officers around, they could have contained this man, mentally ill or not. If they can't contain one person, then there's something wrong with them. Brute, unnecessary force is what happened.
The shooting comes at a time when police in the US are being closely scrutinised, following a string of incidents in which authorities have used lethal force to control suspects.
In the weather, skies today and tonight will be partly cloudy with a few locally cloudy spells and brief passing showers. Seas remain rough with waves reaching 2.1 to 2.8 meters or 7 to 9 feet. The small craft warning for mariners and sea bathers remains in effect. Winds will blow from the east-northeast to east at 16 to 23 miles per hour on land, reaching 28 miles per hour over open waters. Across the eastern Caribbean, a broad area of high pressure is the dominant feature. It is generating windy conditions across the region. Shallow cloud patches and pockets of moisture will occasionally move across the islands to generate some brief cloudy spells with passing showers. The weather brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Thank you so much for watching. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. I'm Ebony Brandon.